National Director of Public Prosecutions, Mashaile Batoy, says the NPA she inherited from her predecessor was severely compromised. She's been testifying at the inquiry looking into South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office. Newzroom Afrika's Mashaile has more.
National Director of Public Prosecution Mashaile Batoy says Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions Andrew Chauke acted outside his jurisdiction when he became involved in matters in KwaZulu-Natal, something she says is strictly not allowed.
Mr. Chauke leaves South Gauteng area of his jurisdiction and go to KZN if circumstances arises to go and function as a prosecutor there or as a DPP there.
That is not permitted, Chairperson. As a DPP, he cannot exercise he cannot exercise jurisdiction over a case that emanates from another division. That the DPPs are appointed by the President to exercise jurisdiction in the air to an office and shall exercise jurisdiction in the division to which they have been appointed.
Batoy compared the Nkabinde inquiry to the Mokgoro inquiry, noting that both deal with allegations related to decisions to drop charges against former crime intelligence boss Richard Mnuodzi.
The allegations against Advocate Mnuodzi in the Mokgoro inquiry related to his decision to withdraw charges against Lieutenant General Richard Mnuodzi, who was the head or the former head of crime intelligence. This present inquiry also relates to a decision to withdraw charges against Mnuodzi, I will refer to as Mnuodzi. However, the decision taken by Advocate Chauke to withdraw the criminal charges against Mnuodzi relate to different charges. The ones taken by Advocate Mnuodzi related to fraud and other related charges. This one relates to murder and other charges.
Advocate Mashaile Batoy says that when she took office, she inherited a national prosecuting authority that was severely dented. She says the credibility of several senior officials was in question, issues that were widely aired during the state capture inquiry.
There were serious allegations against members of the leadership of the NPA, including my predecessor, Advocate Abrams, Advocate Jiba, Advocate Mnuodzi, who served as National Director, Acting National Director, Deputy National Director, and Special Director of Public Prosecution.
Batoy says the NPA was grappling with extensive interference.
There will be allegations of interference in these matters and improper influence. And so it is important for the context of this case. Evidence will be at a later stage led in that regard.
Batoy continues her testimony on Friday. For Newzroom Afrika on channel 405, I am Mashaile in Pretoria.
Alleged political fixer Brown Mnuodzi has conceded to the Madlanga Commission that he lied under oath about his position in the police ministry. He says he lied due to his identity as an agent. Mnuodzi spent a third day testifying at the inquiry, which is looking into allegations of criminal infiltration in police.
The answer, Commissioner, to the question because the Commission has not yet arrived at the conclusion if I'm an agent. Commissioners, yes, I lied in executing my duties. My conscience, when signing this affidavit, I took an oath in front of that particular police officer, that commissioner of oath, knowing that it's a lie in executing my duties. That's correct, Commissioner.
I want to suggest to you, Mr. Mnuodzi, and hopefully, and depending on the answer that you give, this is the last point I'm making at this stage. I want to suggest to you that an oath is meaningless to you, and I have no reason to believe that the one you took before us here means anything to you. Do you want to comment on that?
No comment, Commissioner.
Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into allegations of infiltration in the criminal justice system has heard that procurement processes within police were compromised, opening the way for alleged corruption to take place. A tender awarded to a company belonging to businessman Mnuodzi Matlala took center stage. SAPS procurement head took the stand today where he claimed that irregularities were flagged.
The issue that's being raised by internal audit is this, though, in the public was an entity or a person that was flagged as having been involved in significant public procurement irregularities at Tembisa Hospital. This was and they have held the view that at least that should have been flagged by the bid evaluation committee. Considering the extent of the allegations that were in the media, were those allegations completely irrelevant to the tender that was being adjudicated by the SAPS at the time?
I'm unable to answer on behalf of BAC. Certainly on my behalf, I did not find a link, and I'm sure the members of the BAC at the time, otherwise they would have flagged it in the deliberations. At the time of the adjudication, I did not even try to establish the link because it did not appear in my head that there is a link between this Matlala and the Matlala that is, or any other Matlala for that matter. The assumption that is made is that the bid evaluation committee and the bid adjudication committee ought to have known, and I dispute that.
ANC veteran Matthews Phosa says President Cyril Ramaphosa should have sacked embattled police minister on special leave, Senzo Mchunu, as soon as serious allegations against him were made. He says this would send a clear message of a zero-tolerance approach to wrongdoing.
You should have long fired him without hesitation. Mnuodzi is not the subject matter for my entertainment. He should be charged with perjury. He lied under oath. He lied in front of the nation. I don't take what he said there seriously. I'm a trained intelligence officer. He doesn't speak like one. Talks too much, verbiage, diarrhea and rubbish. Doesn't even know what he's talking about. So he should be charged with perjury because he spoke under oath. Yes, that's very serious. And other people are going to testify there, must bring the truth. The allegations made against the Minister of Police by Lieutenant Mnuodzi were very serious allegations. So serious that the president had to establish a commission of inquiry and he had to suspend the minister. I'm saying suspending is not the way. Fire him.
All right, now to assist us with this conversation, we have governance expert Professor Kedibone Phago and security analyst Mashaile joining us for more. Very good evening to both of you gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. So we're talking all things Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee, just analyzing many of those witnesses that took to the stand this week. And we'll of course start with the Madlanga Commission and Brown Mnuodzi, who came in and spoke about how there are CIA agents in South Africa, referring to King Misuzulu Zwelithini as well as General Mkhwanazi. Maybe, Prof, let's begin with you. Just maybe talk to us in terms of how you interpreted the credibility of a witness such as Mnuodzi, and specifically in relation to political interference and criminality investigations.
Good evening, Katlago. Thank you for having me here, and good evening to Ndade Andy as well. It's very frustrating to be a South African during this point in time, because what we are witnessing is that our governance wheels are completely off, and those who are supposed to be the guardians of our governance architecture are found wanting and not actually even seem to know what is happening. It is very clear when we see characters of this nature of Brown Mnuodzi, for example, that wield a lot of influence. But when they are subjected to the formalities, as we are seeing in the commission, that there is an absolute lack of substance or even direction. So we are reflecting and we are trying to ask ourselves as a nation, as a country, of where are we going at this point in time? Can we really put the trust in the kind of leadership we have at this point in time? It is good to have this commission as a platform because it is exposing a whole lot of things, but there's the deafening silence from the executive, from the ministries that are responsible for taking our country forward and protecting our institutions against these kinds of corrupt incidents are worrying at this point in time.
Most certainly. I mean, Tate Mashaile, Prof is saying that it's very frustrating being South Africans at this point in time. And we heard that the evidence leader labeling Mnuodzi as a professional liar. What does this indicate about the challenges that are faced by the Commission in verifying some of these testimonies and the people that appear before the Commission?
Good evening to you, Ntate Phago Madumekiao. In the space of security strategy, you go on what you call threat hunting, and the Commission seeks to identify vulnerabilities that would be a threat to the criminal justice cluster in our country from the 6th of July onwards. And the posture and the conduct of Ntate Mnuodzi left us with a bitter taste, even left the chairman who's normally cool, calm and collected, Ntate Madlanga. I saw the tiger in him rising, addressing Ntate Mnuodzi on the issue of respect for oath. Anyone who does not have respect for oath that he operates under is a serious challenge for the welfare, the integrity, and as well as the legality or the lawfulness of what they do, since they claim to be agents or informants and or operatives. I haven't really put my finger in on what exactly would be the role of Ntate Mnuodzi. A contact agent would be a salaried member of the crime intelligence, and an operative, a crime intelligence operative, would be a member of the SAPS in the space of crime intelligence, or a highly trained and vetted civilian. As an informant, you provide raw information that could be turned into intelligence products. But what Ntate Mnuodzi has done in the past week, and stress and depression that he has caused us, he has not brought anything of substance, hence the anger that we saw pushed by the commissioners in trying to pin him down to respond in a correct way and manner.
Ntate Mashaile, I mean, he speaks of being an informant from the late 90s, I believe. And from your experience, people who played such a role, where do they often transition into within the space? Do you find them becoming police officers, or what role would they typically occupy from being an informant?
What pushes them to go into a transition mode, either help the police or law enforcement agencies through crime intelligence, or they themselves become criminals, is what motivates them. When one is an informant, there's a motivation, or a contact agent, there's motivation, as well as a crime intelligence operative. There are motives. As an informant, it's purely for money. The profile would be of a low-level criminal, or a person who would want immunity in exchange for information or advice that you would give to the investigators or crime intelligence for the investigation of a crime, and many others. So The motivation of this gentleman would inform whether he would become a police officer and or he would become what he calls himself a contact agent, or join SAPS as a member, become an operative, a crime intelligence operatives. And the last two categories of contact agent as well as crime intelligence operatives, in my view, based on what he has said and what I know, he doesn't qualify. He would be an ordinary an informant to crime intelligence.
Prof, I mean, Mnuodzi made a lot of sensational claims this week from CIA agents and their involvement in political assassinations. He also spoke about how Matlala claimed to have given sums of money to the National Commissioner, to General Cele, and also going as far as saying that he followed him to General Mkwanazi's house. What strategy do you think he's trying to employ in creating these sensational claims?
But my interpretation for what he was trying to do was clearly he was doing his best to protect his associates in the government, our leaders. And it is very clear, and for me that is the major worrying factor, that the people who have entrusted with the levers of power in this country are associating themselves with these kind of characters, because all he was trying to do was to point the country and the commission to a different direction, so that the actual relationships that he has with those in the levers of power cannot be established. And I think it was very clear that the commission had actually cracked his testimony even before he could come on board. It was very clear that they have made a determination of the kind of a person he is, but needed time to process that. So the major concern, we should have now is what kind of leaders do we put in these positions of power? Because these people have a huge responsibility, Katlaho, to take our country forward, to implement the developmental agenda of this country. There's a document that actually talks about the professionalization of the public service that was adopted by the cabinet in 2022. And this actually requires the entire government machinery, the entire public sector, to focus and professionalize. And so that also means we need to see the manner in which the ministers, the manner in which the public officials would conduct themselves in a way that is befitting. We don't see anything like that in this particular instances. So the association of people who could be potential criminals with the public servants at this level tells us that our public institutions are under siege, and there is a need for an urgent intervention to reform these public institutions. Otherwise, in the very near future, we are going to see a country that we have never imagined to have.
After the break, I really want us to unpack that even more, that close proximity of supposed criminals with those that are in positions of power. We are discussing all things Madlanga Commission and Ad Hoc Committee for this week. Remember, you can send us your comments and questions on WhatsApp on 072-110-5584, or you can give us a call on 010-594-6010, or engage with us on X at Newzroom 405. We'll continue with the discussion after the break. Welcome back. We are still having our conversation with our experts, governance expert Professor Kedibone Phago and security analyst Mashaile, joining us for this conversation around the commissions and committee representatives and those that testified this week. So before the break, and Mashaile, we were speaking about the kind of leadership that we have in the country, and Prof was saying that we really need to look into the kind of people that we put in power and how it is that they represent the country. We also heard earlier from the ANC veteran, Ntate Matthews Posa, saying that if he was the president, he wouldn't have put Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave. In fact, he would have fired him immediately just on those allegations, as damaging as they are. What's your take with regards to our responses to such situations?
Two things. One, we have to act with integrity as leaders. The second thing, we have to instill hope in our people so that our people can then begin to respect the institutions of leadership as explained by Ntate Phago, so that our people can begin to have trust and confidence in the police as well as the criminal justice cluster or system. Failure to do so invites shady characters like the gentleman who we have seen in this week of comedy between himself and Ugogo at the Madlanga Commission. This whole week was just a comedy of errors when it comes to those who opened the week at Madlanga Commission as well as the ad hoc committee. It is because we are not tough. Am I agreeing with Ntate Posa that the minister should not have been suspended but sent packing home? I have said so in one of your interviews, Katle, with Iman. I said I'm definitely certain that this minister is not going to come back as the Minister of Police, maybe as an ambassador or something else. But definitely, the conduct and the allegations as put forward by Ntantam Kwanazi, corroborated by his witnesses and the investigators, tells me without any doubt that the president will not have the capacity to carry the minister as the Minister of Police or the suspended minister or the minister on special leave once again as the Minister of Police. Now, this is a very worrying concern to people like yourself, Katleho and Ntate Phago. We want a clean governance. We want a clean country. We want a clean criminal justice system. We want to be able to go to a police station, go to court, talk to prosecutors, respect the magistrate and the judges. We don't want to go to court for the sake of going and not really having respect for those systems.
So, Prof, Ntate Mashaile has mentioned Dr. Mary de Haas, and she appeared before the ad hoc committee in Parliament this week. A violence monitor that is situated in the province of KZN, someone who's said to have really had a lot of influence over the minister with regards to the letter that she wrote that influenced that letter of disbandment on the 31st of December. How did you find her as a witness?
So I think that was shocking for many of us to actually realize that there was a very close connection between what she has written to the minister and what subsequently minister made it to be an instruction to disband the PKTT. And it actually legitimizes the concerns that the General Mkhwanazi has come up with to say we have a problem, a policing problem, a security problem, that there is an infiltration of certain individuals in our policing system. So I really fully agree with Ntate Mashaile on this point. We we need a governance system that is very honorable, that is very respectful. Our constitution is very clear on how our structures, our public administration needs to be run. But what we're seeing and experiencing is the opposite. And I think the failure from our executives to really bring in the integrity that is required in the administration really says that we are not serious about governance. So it is quite important that for people who are next to our executives that are advising the ministers, that are the chief of staffs for the ministers, that the ministers themselves need to be beyond reproach. And it is the responsibility of the president, of his cabinet, to make sure that they actually redeem us as a country. It is going to be very difficult for me and you to really think that we can put the enough amount of pressure to that level until they come to themselves and say, how can we actually contribute better to South Africa? And I think this is what is really lacking to a very large extent, as you would have seen that perhaps the minister could have really engaged better. I did not think that the issues that were on the table were complex. I don't even think that many of the problems that are being dealt with at this commission really needed a commission. They are a symptom of a collapse of leadership, of public policy, of proper decision-making processes.
Dr. Mashaile, I mean, Mary de Haas did say that although the members of parliament were saying there are a lot of similarities with regards to the letter that she wrote and the one that the minister had put out, she has written to the minister, even the previous minister, on many occasions, and there never really has been a response. And she says she did not think there would be a response, and also a response that would be very much in line with what she was trying to put forward. And she just wanted to document what the things were happening within the PKTT.
The similarities are very surprising, Katlego. I'm going to use this as the basis of the minister making a decision based on the advice that or the concerns of Nkgono Mary de Haas, or Auntie Mary de Haas, as she's popularly known this week all over this country. I am beginning when I look at the data set of things and conduct that is before me, the evidence that is before me. Crunching it says to me, the minister wanted to close down the PKTT. He might not have had solid reasons, hence the weakness in consultation with the owner of the process. The owner of the process would be the president, who established the interministerial team that would have led to the project management team, that would have led to the PKTT identifying criminals and those who have committed crimes and arresting them, and the process leading to a situation where we hear that some of the reasons had to do with financing of the PKTT vis-a-vis the benefits that the PKTT is bringing brought onto table. I'm bringing here, Katlego, a cost-benefit analysis, cost to the government and the benefits to the people of this country. I am happy that General Ntantam Kwanazi came out so that we can then be able to see the vulnerabilities and the systemic weaknesses that we knew, that we suspected that are there, but that we did not just have enough firepower to identify and
be able to
rectify.
Pinpoint them. Most certainly. We do have a caller on the line. We've got Stuart out in Durban. Stuart, a very good evening to you. What are your thoughts this evening?
Good evening to you. How are you?
We are good, thank you, Stuart.
I just want to talk about Brian Mnuodzi and Mnuodzi. What happened today?
Yes, please go ahead.
Am I live or where am I now?
You are live on the late edition. You can give us your thoughts there, Stuart.
Okay. Brian Mnuodzi has got verbal diarrhea. Okay?
Right.
That's number one. Okay. Number two, he's a pathetic liar. He's a liar of note. That's number two. Number three, it's sad that an ANC minister can actually mix with a man like him. It's sad for our country.
Right.
Okay? I remember the lady who was on the other day.
Mary DeHaas.
Was on the from JPD. How she was treated. Okay? And they reinstated her.
Yes.
It's because of people like Brian Mnuodzi and Cynthia Mchunu that does that to an educated black lady. And it's sad.
It certainly is
and
sad.
then Monday morning they reinstate her. That's how bad they are, these people. That's how bad.
Stuart, thank you for your thoughts, Stuart. Unfortunately, we do have to take other callers that are on the line, but we certainly do get your views there in terms of how bad the situation is. We do have Sbusiso out in Umlazi. Sbusiso, very good evening to you. What are your thoughts this evening?
Yes, I'm very much shocked as a South African. You know, the Brown Mnuodzi, our testimony, the past 3 days. Hey, you see, I'm so taken aback. I'm shocked. You know, you can see it's clear that he's protecting his associate, the Ket Mashalas, the Mchunus, General Spear. You see, he is gunning for General Mkwanazi, General Kumalo. You know, because everything that he is saying, right. you can read between the lines.
That he's out to protect
the guy
his own.
is fond of telling lies.
All right. Thank you, Sbusiso. Thank you for your thoughts and for calling in this evening. Well, certainly our viewers are shocked, very perplexed. And the country continuously, as we're hearing these testimonies, are having these your moments from time to time. Prof, we also heard from Cedric Ngabinde, who's the former Chief of Staff for Minister Senzo Mchunu, and he also shocked us with some of the information that he gave with regards to Paul O'Sullivan, Robert McBride, and how they had a Pahlani task team to remove him as the acting national commissioner. I mean, those are scathing allegations against those, and that meeting that he speaks of where AfriForum member, a DA member, a journalist sat around the table with Cedric Ngabinde being there and them trying to put together a plot to remove the then acting national commissioner. What did you make of that testimony?
But my major concern is that if because these problems are intractable, they are long-standing, they've been going on for some time. And the question that anyone would really raise in this case is that who really is caring for South African to come and solve our security problems? Because we know that it's not very safe in our country. We are actually one of the most crime-ridden countries in the world. And here we have a government that knows some of these problems. If these people in police, in the Hawks, in the justice cluster, know about these problems, and nobody is really taking an effort to solve these problems for us, and these problems have been happening for a long time. What are we doing? Why do we have a government? Why can't the president tell us what he is doing to solve our problems? These are not problems that came with General Ndlandla Mkhwanazi that started this year. These are long-standing problems. So administration in, administration out, nobody cares for South Africans. So we need to go back to the drawing board and start engaging one another and say, what kind of leaders do we want? Because we want to move our country forward so that we can compete with other nations. It looks like the bar is very low at this point in time.
Dr. Mashaile, I mean, given that revelation that was given by Cedric with regards to that Pahlani task force that was put together, using members of IPID. I think what was also eye-raising was just that involvement of civil society, allegedly, of political parties, as well as the media. I mean, he mentions that there was a journalist who was a part of those meetings that really put together this plot.
These are the satanic behaviors in the fire of succession battles. Everyone in the, or most of the people in the South African policing services either wants to be a lieutenant general, wants to be a divisional commissioner, most want to be the national commissioner, of which is impossible for all to be there. I'll tell you a story, a practical story of when people sit around the table to destroy you, Katlego. There's a female brigadier. Her name is Vuyokas. I'm not going to say the surname. That woman was a very powerful, results-delivering woman who worked somewhere at responsible for operational response services many years back at 10111 in the Midrand. That woman is out in the streets now after being planted, after being framed by a crew that I think must also be investigated. I would advise that woman to get hold of Madlanga Commission in light of what Nkabinde spoke about with regard to these teams that destroy people. That woman had ultimately have to sell her house in order to defend herself in a court of law for no crimes that have been committed. Even the people who were hired, people who were coached to say that she committed a crime, when they stood in a court somewhere in Protea Court, Magistrate Court, though that individual was arrested on defeat, lying under oath, perjury. So these things are real, Katlego. Some of us were close to these things, we know, and they must be stopped, and they must stop because they destroy families. And we have a responsibility as leadership to ensure that teams like those feel the heat within the confines of the law. Even if they are no longer in the police systems, they must be tracked down and they must be brought before the courts of our country. They must account for having it being organized crime syndicates that destroyed others.
I just want us to close off with the appearance of Major General Molefe Fani here, Prof. And he's the supply head, the head of supply chain management within SAPS. And he spoke about seeing absolutely nothing material that needed for them to stop the awarding of that 360 million rand tender that was given to Vusumuzi Matlala's company. And this is someone who had served in the National Treasury before. We would believe that he's well-versed when it comes to procurement processes. There were apparently bidders that were unfairly disadvantaged in this process. Do you find that government officials at some point, maybe not being complicit in the actual corruption, but just there's a lack of care in looking deeper into some of these issues?
But we know very well that the supply chain processes are the battleground for, in fact, part of the reason we have these problems of corruption are because these are flagged out year in, year out by the Auditor General's office, and there are no interventions, meaningful ones, that we have seen to date. What we have seen, there's a lot of body of knowledge out there that has established that many of these people that sit in, even in these bid adjudication committees, are compromised in many ways because they are, family people. They are working just like me and you, and because we have allowed these external elements and these external hands to pull in the strings, they make it very difficult for our public officials to function optimally. Right. So you find that people are set up and they get to be compromised unnecessarily. So I think this matter would need to be properly investigated. Where it comes from, it will really place people who needs to answer to come to be booked.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this evening, but thank you so much for your time and for joining us on this conversation. That's governance expert, Professor Kedibone Phago, and security analyst, Mashaile. Thank you so much for your time.